Afternoon, evening, everybody. It is right at 5 Eastern, right at the start of our time together. I just opened up the room, so I'm going to give it 30 seconds, a minute before we kick off into the second segment of this series on building an elite organization. I know a number of you were with us a couple weeks ago when we did the overview on the compass. So thanks if you were on with us before for rejoining with us, continuing on with us, with us for the first time. We can send you the recording of the first training in the series, laying out the clear strategy and direction for your organization. But today we're going to get into a even more fun topic from my viewpoint. Probably for many of you, don't think of this topic as fun as the strategic planning and vision of the organization, because today we're going to get into what matters even more than that, and what's even harder and more critical to success your business than having a clear strategy. That is having an organization filled with A players, having a strong leadership team and leadership bench. And that's what we're going to get into today. And so I walk you through here for those on the first time. I'm Don Wenner. I'm the founder and CEO here at DLP Capital. I'm also the author of a book called Building an Elite Organization that we're following along in this series. I've been running this system that you're going to talk about, including what we're talking about today and how we've built our team, our culture, how we've attracted, developed and managed, great producers, developed leaders in our organization now for 17 years, and in an organization that's been growing at 50+% a year every year for 17 straight years. Currently, we have all said and done about 400 full-time team members today. And with that said, this topic of building an organization of A players is part of our elite execution system. The elite execution system thinks of all organizations having four areas, four quadrants, four stools four legs to the stool or the chair, which is strategy, which we talked a lot about in our last time together, the compass; people, which is what we're going to talk about today; operations; and acceleration, which is sales and marketing. I wrote this book, Building the Organization, that we're following along in this sort of master class, breaking apart each chapter for our DLP team members who run the elite execution system. My next book, Building an Elite Career, comes out in June, which is the employee version of this book and the system. And we have done this to help many of you who are in our elite membership be able to implement the elite execution system into your businesses, help you scale a high growth, high profit business, to help companies create jobs and help the ministries, nonprofits that we work with to be able to scale their impact. We covered last training chapters 1 and 2, the overview of the elite execution system and the compass. And today we're going to cover chapter 3 and 4, rockstar A players and elite world-class leadership. Even if you read the book 5 times and know it inside and out, I assure you, you're going to hear new things today, different perspectives, as we're constantly doing this, evolving. I wrote that book now 2 years ago, and I give you the updated thoughts and thinking to how you go about in this market environment, building an elite organization, which requires having A players throughout your organization. As always, for those with us here for the first time, you can use the Q&A button or the chat box to ask any questions throughout. And then also you'll be able to, I think, hit the raise your hand button, and we can take you off mute as well. But you can always just type in any questions in the chat box or Q&A, and we'll certainly make time for them. All right, so chapter 3 of the book, Rockstar A Players. And some of you might have seen Gina, our head of people, Rose brought this up to me yesterday. Actually, in the Super Bowl, there was an ad about using the term Rockstar A Players. It was kind of funny, about a bunch of rock star, actual rock stars talking about and teasing on using this term rockstar A players. But whether you like the term or not, building an organization of A players, people who produce results in your organization while also being great team members, is the critical hard part of building a great business. And people are our greatest assets. And I think a lot of organizations think of people as a liability, right? You've got to make payroll. You've got to, take on the many forms of liability that come, from having employees in so many different ways. A lot of people end up thinking about their people as liabilities. And what I want to encourage you, and as we start this training, is think about people as assets, in that they're our greatest assets. They're what's more critical than, for those of us in real estate, than capital in our funds or assets, real estate we own or are developing. Our people are the most critical component, a critical resource in our ability to achieve our goals and our ability to make an impact. And even for those of us who when read this slide said, yeah, of course, who already believe this to be the fact, might not necessarily be as good as treating their people that way, right? So maybe you realize that they're your greatest asset, but are you treating them as your greatest asset? So Rockstar A players, again, are the center of building any incredible organization. You need incredible team members, right? A company is just a group of people, right? So in order to have a great company, you need great people, and great people who are aligned with your culture and the values of your organization. And I'm going to dig into that quite a bit here in this training, and what that means, and help you think about what are the type of people you need in your organization today and in the future, based on how you plan to grow your organization. The people function or quadrant as a part of the lead execution system is about attracting, hiring, developing, and retaining top talent. And if you treat this as your number one priority, your business will skyrocket. And for those of us who are in this meeting who are in real estate as the example, I ask you to think to yourself, do you spend as much time thinking about planning, marketing, talking to potential employees or team members as you do in raising capital or finding investors, right? Do you have as much resources and time and energy in your organization spent on finding great people as you do on raising capital, right? Do you spend as much time on managing and developing your people as you do in investor relations for your investors, right? Do you spend as much time in finding great people as you do looking to find deals? And for most organizations, even though they may say and agree that they're the most important resources and most important part of their growth, spend a significantly less time on this area of their business they do in finding deals and raising capital or marketing and sales for growing their revenue as they do in growing their team. So to start off with here, you say today, there's probably not a single person in this meeting today who doesn't feel they have job openings right now in their company. Don't feel that there's open holes, people that they need to add to their company, whether it's for a new role or to replace somebody who's not performing in the organization today. Probably every person here feels they need more help, right? And that's been a big topic the last few years across America, right? How hard it's been to find great talent. It's been definitely an employees market. Almost all employers are short people to execute upon their business plan. And what I find is that a lot of entrepreneurial businesses, a lot of entrepreneurial leaders going to start off the process and put themselves at a disadvantage by not being clear about who they're looking to hire, what actual expectations or outcomes that they want this person to be able to create, what work they want the person actually to do. And the first thing they often do is think they need executives, right? I've talked to many 15-person companies, 20-person companies who are out looking for a chief marketing officer, as an example. And as a 15 or 20, and then when I say, well, what do you need to what the person do? Well, I want the person to be able to create flyers or create a brochure or update my website or manage my social media page. That's not a chief marketing officer, right? That's maybe a graphic designer, a social media manager, or just a marketing manager, right? You don't need a chief marketing officer. You need somebody who's going to have the right skills and desire to do that level of work. Or people think they need a CFO. When I ask, what do you want the person to do? I need them to be able to manage, AR and AP. Right? And they're going to physically do it. There's no other accountant in the company. Well, you don't need a CFO. You need an accountant, right? You need a bookkeeper. Maybe, if you had a couple accountants now, you need a controller, right? So a lot of times we start looking for the wrong title, the wrong level of person. and you end up really struggling then to put the right person with the actual skills and abilities and desire to do the kind of work you need, and put you in a position to hire the right level when it comes time that you need it. So in order to figure out what you need to hire today for any open role, the first thing we highly recommend doing, and it's a big part of the elite execution system, is defining the role. And we use a tool called the RREK, or the tool we use for searching for a candidate is we put an extra R in there, which is requirements, which I'm going to walk you through what an RREK is if you're not that familiar, and how you use this tool to figure out what success would be for the person you're going to hire and make sure you're out attracting the right person. The next thing elite organizations do after they figure out what they need in the person they're hiring, which first is figuring out where you have holes in your organization with the existing people you already have, which we're going to talk about. Then figuring out the candidate profile. We'll walk you through how you do that. Then we go out and we recruit in the right places, have a clear training and onboarding plan to put the person in a position for success, and make sure we have a compensation plan that's aligned with the skills and abilities for the type of candidate we're looking to attract. So you have to first figure out, though, what kind of job you're looking for, what level of an organization, of a role you're looking to fill. So we like to think about, and this is pretty generally accepted in the world of organizational charts today, or is the 5 levels of roles. So level 1 and level 2 roles in an organization are, most companies, that makes up 60 to 70% of the employees, somewhere in that range. And these are usually people with very little to a few years of experience. This is your front line. Then level 3 roles are your kind of middle of the organization, 3 to 10 years experience. Often this is 20 to 30%. These might be manager titles or director titles. These are people who probably are managing, a few people, or at least are managing, some significant department or some significant priorities in the organization. And then level 4 and level 5 are your senior leaders. This should be a small percentage of your organization, right? So if you have a 20-person organization, you probably don't need more than 2 or 3 at most level 4, level 5 roles. If you have a 50-person organization, you may need 3 or 4, maybe 5 senior leaders in your organization. These are people running, business units or functions, usually having multiple direct reports, often including other leaders who report to them. So this kind of puts in a little bit of an overview to what I just kind of walked you through, the 5 levels of an organization. At DLP, we use the titles for entry level. We use analysts, coordinators, technicians, specialists. And then our level 2 are senior analysts, senior coordinators, senior technicians, and then managers or directors are level 3. Senior directors is what we use for level 4. And then level 5 is often thought of as the C level. At DLP, we don't use the term C level. We use managing director or managing principal. Based on what type of business line you're in, you might be more of a VP, SVP, president type titling system. Whatever works based on your organizational structure. This is how we do it in terms of titles, but the more important thing are the levels. And then there's also notes about, kind of the level of training they'll need, right? Level 1 people are people with little experience. You're going to need to train them heavily. Level 2 have a little bit of experience, have some education, but still are going to need, typically heavy training. Level 3, you're going to need less training. Usually they have at least a few years of experience in what you need. Level 1 and level 2, you're usually going to be able to recruit right from, job boards, from colleges, from referrals. Level 3, you may start now also using recruiters, whether it's internal or external. Level 4 and level 5 are you're going to mainly find them from referrals from often other team members, and from, again, internal, external recruiters. When you get to level 5, you really need a great, trusted recruiter that's going to help you be able to source those top level leaders, whether that be a CFO or head of marketing or head of people, or a top level in your organization. All right, so level 1, level 2, kind of what I just walked through. High level training, little experience. We focus on hiring here mainly individuals right out of school. So we hire them right out of school. We go through a process of bringing them aboard, hiring them before they graduate, and running them through a program we call our accelerator program, where we give them create an opportunity that's really exciting to them, but then give them an opportunity to grow and learn, and with a heavy component of training and exposure over their first year on the job. When we look for level 1 and level 2 people, we look for people. We try to evaluate, what have they accomplished maybe in college, what we think their upside is. We look for people who generally have higher A, and we're going to talk about a predictive index, assessment of what kind of personality or talent profile you're looking for. So we're generally looking for people who really want to grow and move up and develop through the organization. We're not generally hiring somebody we say, hey, we're hiring them as a coordinator, we want them to stay as a coordinator. That's a different need than if I'm hiring somebody as an analyst, and in 5 years I want them to be a director or senior director. If I'm developing them up, I need people with a stronger drive, stronger dominance, more of a self-motivation. And typically I need people who can learn faster to be able to grow and expand and move into new areas. So we look for higher cognitive abilities. I'm going to walk you through the tools that we use to do that in a moment, as well. So I'm going to move a bit quickly. This is an example of one of the career fairs that a couple members of our HR team were out at. And we're selling these individuals the growth, the opportunity to be a part of something and grow individually. We get to level 3, again, we're looking for people, manager level, director level, people we can develop in the organization. Sometimes people think of level 3 as, middle management. And as the note says here, a bad level 3 hire can undo all the work you do in finding level 1 and level 2. Another, famous kind of saying that, people only rise to the level of their leader. And so if you have a bad, level 3 leader, bad middle manager here, it's going to dramatically shrink the growth and opportunity to develop your level 1 and level 2, likely lead to heavy turnover, and really, really critical, despite what often you may hear or see, that level 3, that you have dynamic people in level 3 who understand the importance of developing those under them and around them. So again, 3 to 10 years type experience. We're looking for people with high potential that we believe are going to be able to move up in the future into a level 4, level 5 role. And I'm going to walk through a bit of the profiles we look for across the board. So level 4, again, are our senior leaders. These should take a while to hire. I mean, we have a person I'm doing an interview with, hopefully a final interview with later today. And I bet you I'm on interview number 6. She's probably had 15 interviews throughout the organization, including a full day a couple of days ago in our offices. We really take our time to make sure we're putting people in a position here to be successful. We still don't succeed every time by any stretch, but we're really going to take our time to find the right person. And I believe when it gets to level 4 and level 5, these are people you're expecting that don't need as much training. You're hiring them at this level because they already know what they're doing. They're already a proven leader, and they're going to be able to come in and generate results quickly. And that's why here we like to take an approach of hire slow and fire quick, right? Usually, at this level, if they're going to perform very quickly once they come into your organization. So in these roles, we're looking for a lot of experience, people who are ready to take on big opportunities, who aren't afraid of change, who want to be held accountable, who want to be responsible, to have the control and the ownership to drive the desired outcomes. So that brings us to the desired outcomes, brings us to this tool we call the RREK, or the extra R in this example or in this version is requirements. So when I'm going out to hire somebody, I want to know what is success for this person, and what have they done in the past to qualify them for this role. So what are the requirements? What are the skills and abilities and experience they already have before they come to us? So you can't, hold people accountable. You can't expect somebody to come into your organization and generate great results if you haven't defined what the desired results are. And I see so many times somebody says, I really need, a really good operations person. I need a COO. And I say, well, what do you want the person to be able to accomplish? What would success be for the person? And the leaders don't know. They don't know what success will be. Well, it makes it very hard to find the right person, screen them, and evaluate them if you don't know what you expect that person to do. But then it makes it even harder if you hire somebody for them to be able to go out there and exceed your expectations if you don't have clear expectations, if you don't know what results results are going to be, what success will look like. And so many organizations, the team member may think they have some idea of what success is for their job, and the leader may have a very different perspective. And I'm an optimist, and I believe every person in my organization wants to be successful. Every person wants to win in our organization. But if we haven't defined what winning is, how are they going to go about achieving it? How are they going to go about getting great results? So REK is a simple tool. We use this tool within a technology we run called EES tools, but we often create them right in an Excel document or a Google sheet. That template's available on dlpelite.com. You can download this template and use this. And so we go through this process of figuring out what are the key outcomes for this role, the key numbers, what are the expectations, the results the person's going to generate, what are the day-to-day tasks that the person is going to be responsible for, the responsibilities. We describe the role in a really exciting way to really help identify why somebody would want this job and the great work that the person's going to do, the results they're going to generate. And then what are the requirements, the things that the person will have already done before they came to you. And the first place I recommend you starting is in key numbers. And before I dig into this, if right now in your organization you feel you need to make a hire, the first thing I recommend you do is to make sure you have an REK filled out for all the people already in your organization. So especially if you're saying, hey, I need to add somebody, to do a new role or take on a responsibility. Well, somebody must be doing that today, right? Or maybe it's multiple people doing parts of what you want to hire somebody to do. Well, you need to get really clear about what are the people around that role today doing? What should they be doing? So maybe that you want to change things. Maybe that person's responsible for things today. Maybe you're responsible for things today that you're looking to delegate to this new hire. But get really clear about what do you want? What is your REK today? What are your responsibilities? What are the expectations you're responsible for and the other members of the team? And then with this person being hired, how does that change? So you can get really clear about where are the holes in your organization? Where do you need somebody to take ownership? And I've had many cases where we think we need to hire somebody. And as we get clear about the team we have, we realize that we have people on the team today capable and able to take on these responsibilities. We just haven't empowered them to take ownership or haven't gotten clear and aligned around what they're responsible for doing. So once you do that, now you go about and say, all right, what do I want this person to accomplish? First place is what are the key numbers? What are the 2 or 3 or 4? Less is more key outcomes that this person is going to be responsible for. If this is a level 4 or 5 person organization, they're going to own, a couple of the biggest numbers in your organization, the biggest outcomes. Whether somebody you're bringing in from an investor relations, maybe this person is responsible to hit your capital raising goals, or maybe it's a person responsible with marketing role to generate your target number of leads or opportunities, or if it's an HR role, maybe it's a person responsible for making sure you fill all the needed seats in your organization, or whatever that is. But what are the key outcomes that person solely owns and is responsible for? That doesn't mean other people don't help, but this is the person who owns the plan to get there, owns the execution. The buck stops with them. Then we go and we describe the role. And the way I like to describe the role is think of the role as a superhero, right? Think if you're describing this role as a superhero, what is this person going to do? What is this person going to do in the eyes of your customers, your residents, your clients? Describe it that thinking your client's going to read this role description and they're going to know, what does this person do and how are they going to be able to help me? It's the age-old example we've all probably heard, right? Of you talk to 3 people who do the same job, and you ask the first person, what do they do for a living? And he says, my job is to clean up trash. And you ask the second person, he says, my job is to, make the city clean and safe so kids can play and enjoy, right? The same job, but very different description, very different role in how they describe what they're doing. It's really important that you define what is that role? What is the person going to do? What are the outcomes that that person is going to be responsible for your clients, for your residents, for your the impact you want to make in your local community or whatnot. So again, these should be short, 1 to 2 sentences. There's that example right there I just gave. Next, the requirements. These are, again, what the person has already done. How much experience do they need to already have? What kind of skills have they already done? Maybe certain technologies they've already know or have used. What have they already done in the past that's going to put them in a position to be able to do what you need? What type of organizations have they worked for? What size and scope of responsibilities have they had? I was hiring an asset manager, I might be really critical. They've already done multifamily asset management. Maybe if I want them to manage 3,000 plus units across 7 states, might be important that they've already managed, at least a couple thousand units across multiple different states, right? What are the things that are really critical so that they're going to be able to get up and running quicker based upon the level of the role you're looking for? Then we get into the expectations or results and the activities or responsibilities. And even some of our leaders at DLP today still get confused here. And so responsibilities are the actions, the day-to-day things that the person is going to do. This is the list of stuff they do every day. The results are the expectations are the results, the outcomes of why they do that long list of stuff. What are the desired outcomes? So again, responsibilities are things they do. There's no specific number of responsibilities that's right or wrong. We typically find that it ends up around 12 to 20, but again, less is more. If you could narrow down their role and just 10 or 12 responsibilities would appropriately describe the things they do, awesome. Expectations, again, are the desired outcomes. They must be measurable. It's hard to do it. Again, a lot of roles, sales roles are easy, right? A lot of other roles, it's hard to clearly articulate a measurable outcome. But I promise you, it can be done at every role in your organization. It takes some thinking, and that time to think through that is gonna make a tremendous difference around the type of person you hire potentially and the results that they're gonna drive. What are the measurable outcomes that person is responsible for? All right, and ideally, ideally less is more. 5 to 10 is a good range. Again, less is more in terms of their outcomes or expectations. You could narrow down where 4 outcomes would fully articulate the success for this role, then awesome. And all of these expectations need to be, smart, measurable, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based, realistic goals that they can own. And so that's determining the role, who we want to hire, what they're going to accomplish for us. Now, how do we go out there and find the right people that can accomplish that? We use a tool called Predictive Index to help us do that. And the first thing we do anytime we look to do a new role after we identify the REK is we then go and create a candidate profile or a job profile where we go and set what is the behaviors, what is the type of person we're looking to hire to fit who we think would be successful in this role, right? So if I'm looking for somebody to be in maybe a level 1 or level 2 role who's going to be a great team member and be very collaborative and support a strong leader, that's a different personality than if I'm looking for the person who's going to lead the team, take charge, make decisions, want the buck to stop with them, right? That's a different personality profile, right? Am I looking for somebody who can keep things moving forward, keep things steady and consistent and not rock the boat, maybe be able to willing to do routine tasks again and again and again and not question it and do it and execute upon it day in and day out? That's a different person than if we're in a highly changed environment that's changing quickly, and I need them to be able to adjust and adapt to an ever-changing environment, right? Am I looking for somebody with an incredible level of detail and organization who's going to cross every T and dot every I and make sure everything's perfect? Or I need somebody who's going to be more flexible and okay with a plan that's 80% baked and okay with things not being perfect and not fully documented. Then I need somebody who's more flexible. So I'm walking you through a few of the different ranges here, which I'll go through in more detail. For a lot of high growth entrepreneurial organizations, you end up needing kind of a profile close to what you see on the screen here today. You need a driver, somebody who will take charge, a hire on the independent, want to be in charge scale. Often you need people who are got a driving personality, and maybe you need people who are very flexible with a lot of change, more on the high D. And I'll walk you through each of these. So again, we use this tool PI. We provide this tool. If you're an elite member with us, we provide this tool to you. It goes through 4 different behavioral drivers: dominance, extroversion, patience, and formality. And everybody, who takes the assessment, which only takes 5 minutes, score on one level across the extremes of each of these categories. Example, this profile here is high A. moderately high B, a very low C, and a moderately low D, right? So these are the scales. So highly dominant, pretty extroverted, very impatient because very low, so very impatient, and being moderate D, moderately low D, more flexible, less formality would be this profile right here. So again, low is to the left, high is to the right. And the higher they are or the lower they are, the more extreme that behavior is in them. And it's amazing. If you've never done this before, when you do it for yourself, you're going to be amazed at how accurate it is. And when you get this done on the people in your organization today, if you've never had this done, you realize you'll find, wow, that's dead on, and help you really better understand the people you work with, which is why this is such a powerful tool to use in the hiring process. To really understand, am I tracking people? So if we set the the candidate profile up front, and then people start applying and they start completing their profile, it'll match them up against what we think is the target for the role, and help you easily identify if they're a fit for this role based on their behavior against what we're looking for in the role. And really not just in the role, but in a lot of cases where you are as a company, right? If you're a smaller entrepreneurial company where things are changing all the time, you need a different personality profile generally than if you're a much larger organization where it's a lot more organized and processes are more well established. You need and you have bigger teams. You need per se less people to be the leaders. In a larger team, it's a different profile you're gonna often look for. And then that brings us to the cognitive assessment, which is not an intelligence test. It's a processing speed test. It tests how quickly can people process information. And if you're looking to hire somebody to do a job and they've done this job exactly at the last company, then they're not going to have to learn as much new information. In some ways, it's not as critical. They have a high cognitive ability because they've already learned the information. But if they're coming into a role where they've got to learn a lot of new information, things are changing quickly, higher cognitive ability is really, really critical. Not every role in every organization needs a high cognitive ability. And again, based on how much direct, tangible experience they have to what you're looking to do today in that role will dictate how important this is. But it provides guidance to help you decide if people are going to be a fit for that role in your organization. So when we go and we set a profile for a job, we would go and assess what we're looking for, and it would create a range of, we're looking for people within this range on the drive or the A scale, this range on the extroversion scale, this range on the patient scale, and so forth. And then when people apply, it's going to show us where do they land within the scales we set, and then we'll set a target to what the cognitive ability is, and it'll show us where do they sit against the target. And it helps us more quickly go through evaluating candidates and determine if it's somebody we want to dig deeper into interviewing and going through the full process. So that's a little bit of the tools we use, some of the things to do to help you go about figuring out who you need for the role, what success would look like for the role, and help you go out there and attract the best candidates for the role. Now I'm going to transition a little bit into how do you attract the people to your organization, right? What do you do in your organization that are going to attract the best people, the people that would check the box and be able to accomplish what you have in the RK, who fit your organization, who fit the profiles you're looking for? How do you get them to come work for you? Why would they want to come work for you when there's so many opportunities and we're in an employee market? Why would they want to come work for you? It's really important that you give thought to that and give thought to attracting people to come work in your organization, and making sure that you're looking at everything you do, from how you present your company online to how you write your job ads, that you're focusing on accentuating what are the things that make your organization great that would attract people to want to come work for you. Because once you do all the work to go out there and figure out what success is and create the job ad and dial this in, and you go now start looking for candidates, before you ever get the opportunity to talk to a candidate, they're going to go online and look at your organization. They're going to read about your company. And you got to understand, what are you going to be able to do and show that you do that are going to attract people to come work for you. And every organization has a different value proposition, a different set of things that are going to attract people to want to come work for your organization, attract the right type of people for your organization. So at DLP, some of the things that we think of are our value proposition that get people to want to come work here is the high growth that we've had historically and the growth trajectory on people. A lot of the type of people we want that fit our organization are people who want to be a part of something that's really growing. Our story to how we got to where we are, and the entrepreneurial path, the culture we've built, which really means the type of people we have in our organization. The best thing I can do to attract people to come work here is just get them to see and talk to the people who already work here. Our impact and mission-based goals and focus, our focus around developing our people and truly living the fact that we believe people are our greatest asset and investing in them. Things we do around personal development, all the different forms of success we've created, and that the fact that who we are and say we are is who we are, and so the transparency of the organization. So we think this is our value proposition that attracts the right type of people to our organization. So you need to figure out what is that for you. So now let's say you've hired the great people, you've been able to attract great people to come work for you, you've been able to set success for those people who come work in your organization. You now have them here. How do you invest in them? How do you set them up for success? How do you get them to want to stay in your organization? How do you get them to grow and develop and be who you need them to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now as the organization grows? So the first important thing to do to invest in people is put them in a position to win and to do meaningful work. Again, I believe I'm an optimist here, and I believe people want to win and they want to do meaningful work. They want to know that the work they're doing is meaningful. So that's the first thing you need to do, is give them challenging work that's clearly defined as to what winning looks like, and provide them with the resources. And sometimes the resources just means provide them with the ownership to get the resources they need, right? Put them in a position to succeed, give them meaningful work that makes a difference. That's the first and most important way to invest in people. To get people to be excited about what they do, to give their all, to want to stay in your organization. When you hire people, a lot of people think the hard job is put all this work to figure out the success, to identify the role, to screen people, to interview them, to make them a job offer, to get them to accept the job offer. And now they accept, and I've seen, and we did this early in our journey. We think we did the hard part now. Well, actually, now the hard part starts. Now we got to onboard them and get them ingrained in the organization and get them trained up and ready to be successful, especially in the lower levels of the organization where they need a lot more training. So we provide our level 1 and level 2 with our most intensive training and onboarding process over really the full year, but heavily over the first 12 weeks. We use a buddy system where you assign them to a buddy to help them get ramped up and understand the organization. We do different checkpoints with HR and with their leader, and evaluations on how they're doing. We do a lot of job and cultural intensive training, so teaching them the company and the philosophy and the approach, but also training them on the job itself. Our mindset is to put level 1 and level 2 people in a position to be ready for promotion in a year and a half. Level 3, we need a little bit less intensive training, but we may have some bad habits that we need to now break and train out. They learn from past companies. So again, similar training, but a little bit different in the approach of what we're teaching, what we're training, if they already have experience. And we want to put them in a position they can move to level 4 in a year and a half to 3 years from joining us. Level 4 and level 5 need less formal training, but more getting them up to speed in terms of what are the main issues, getting them acclimated to the rest of the team they're going to work for, and getting them to understand what the top priorities are so they can be in a position to succeed. Getting them assimilated with the rest of the leaders is one of the most important parts of bringing in level 4 and level 5 leaders. So that's the first thing, putting people in a position to win, and having them have meaningful work. And the second really important way you need to invest in your people is actively invest into their, not the company's, their professional and personal growth, helping them achieve their professional goals and their personal goals. So there's some old school management thinking that tells you should keep, professional and personal out of it. You shouldn't get involved in your team members' personal lives. You shouldn't be friends with your people. You shouldn't get into anything outside of work. I believe that to be 100% wrong. There's a great saying that says people join companies and they leave leaders. It is incredibly important that you build deep relationships with the people who report directly to you, especially in your organization. You do that through building deeper, multifaceted relationships, building deep level of trust. And that happens through your people knowing you actually care, not that you're acting like you care, that you genuinely care about their success professionally and personally. And we built some different rhythms and tools to help us do this at DLP. So each of our leaders meets with their direct reports every month in an alignment meeting, which is a one-on-one meeting that we do focused on what the team member wants to talk about. And that those will, as you build deeper relationships, they'll vary from personal to professional and become more and more about personal. Claudia, who I believe took over for a couple of minutes for me when I fell off here, we literally just did an alignment meeting right before we jumped into this training together. And we spent the first half of that time together talking about what she's working on in her MBA and talked about family and summer travel and things that had nothing to do with our work, right? And then we got into some work priorities that she drove the topic around, things that she needs my input or insight or perspective or help on, right? Then we do one of these alignment meetings every quarter, turns into what we call an alignment GPS meeting, which is a deeper dive meeting where we're giving some performance feedback, helping give them feedback on how they're doing against their expectations, against their top priorities, giving them feedback on how they're living in alignment with our values, and then digging into a specific area of focus that the team member wants to dig into, whether that be their growth professionally, their development plan professionally, or going into their personal goals using a tool I'll show you in a minute called the Personal Compass. And so these alignment meetings, which are monthly, and the alignment GPS, which are quarterly, are the one-to-one meetings between a leader and their report. And then we do some other types of meetings to help create alignment and show people we care. I do a lot of skip level meetings, the term we use, where I meet with people who report to the leaders who report to me. So people don't report to me, but I skip the level of person reports to me and meet with their people, especially high potential people in the organization that I want to invest time with and help them and show them I care about them. And then we call brain dates, which are just one-on-one meetings between colleagues to better get to know each other and build relationships within the organization. We've, again, focused on investing not just people professionally, but personally as well. And we built a tool called the Personal Compass, where it helps people all of our team members set goals across all the areas of their life, the 8 F's of life you see on the screen. And we help foster, work-life integration. This Personal Compass tool is available, on the free tools on our website. And something that all of our team members, virtually all of our team members at DLP use and do. And this is some of the most fun part of my role. And what I get to do is helping, my direct reports develop their personal compass, help them talk through and think through what they want to accomplish long-term, what goals they want to set this year, and how they can grow in their life as a wife, as a mom, as a dad, as a golfer, as whatever it is that's important in their life. And so we help people establish their own personal core values. We help people establish their own personal mission, family mission if they have a family. We help them establish the habits and rituals for their life. We help them build out an ideal schedule for how their work fits in with all their other priorities in their life. So that's investing in our people, investing in them as a whole person, not just as an employee. And then the center of investing in our people, the center of having rockstar A players, the center of the people function is elite world-class leadership. And I did some of you joined us in a virtual leadership summit we did a couple of weeks ago, where we gave a lot of great insights from some experts around leadership. I'm just going to hit today on just a few points around leadership to wrap us up and open it up to questions. So we use the term elite world-class leadership here at DLP. That's chapter 4, building an elite organization. Leadership is at the center of your organization. People is the most important function of the organization, the most important quadrant of the business. The center of that, at the core, is leadership. At DLP, we have a motto or a mantra of leaders made here. Some of you, if you were on our leadership virtual summit a couple weeks ago, heard me talk about time tellers versus clock builders. And great leaders understand that the key to building a great organization is to be a clock builder, meaning you're developing leaders in your organization. The greatest job of a leader is to develop other leaders, building clocks. Many of us in our organizations, we're the only time teller. We're the only person who can tell the time. We're the only person when there's a big problem or a big issue, or we need to know where we're going or what we're going to do next, has to come to us. That makes us feel good and it's great. And that works to a certain size, maybe. But if you really want to build an enduring great organization, you need other people who are capable of telling time, other people capable of making decisions and driving the organization forward. These are our leaders across DLP. This is a constant. As the organization continues to grow, our leadership needs continue to grow. And we're in constant evolution of developing leaders from within the organization. Multiple of the people on this screen did not start in leadership roles. Some of them started in level 1 roles. And then at our pace of growth, times we have to bring in outside leaders to join us who have specific experience and expertise that we don't possess. So the 2 leaders on the right of the screen have just both joined us in the last 30 days here at DLP, joining our senior leadership team. At DLP, we've defined leadership as leadership is defined by results. Leadership is the capacity to influence others through inspiration and passion generated by vision, ignited by a purpose, and produced by conviction. John Maxwell is a simpler definition of leadership. Leadership is influence. It's a phenomenal, simple definition of what leadership is at its core, at its essence. So how do we build great leadership? The only way you can build great leadership in your organization, the only way you can develop leaders underneath you, is you have to grow and become a better leader. We have to grow as leaders to grow those within our team. And again, it must be at the center of any great company. I don't know a great company that leadership development is not at the center. We also have defined at DLP the job of a leader, which is leaders make things easy so the team can execute. Leaders show the way through the forest and achieving the team's goals by teaching, coaching, and empowerment. And again, the most important part of that is leaders develop other leaders. And the pinnacle of leadership is what John Maxwell and Jim Collins both call level 5 leadership, servant leadership. And the great thing about becoming a better leader is it's something that you can grow and improve upon if you commit to working at it. Some are certainly born with better leadership natural skills or tendencies, but anybody can grow as a leader, especially if you're committed to being a great servant leader, which is leading from the front, leading from action, understanding that your job as a leader is to serve, not to have people serve you. So the only way you can keep tackling bigger and larger goals and expanding your organization into new and exciting areas is to have a deep bench of leadership, of people who are ready to step up and lead and take charge and take ownership and be responsible for the outcomes. So with that said, speaking of leadership, here, I'm going to open it up to questions. We have a couple upcoming events I want to talk about, including an event focused on leadership. So coming up here in just a few weeks, we are hosting an event. The center of this event theme is legacy. But a lot of our members of our elite membership, a lot of organizations, leaders focused on building elite organizations will be here with us March 23rd to the 25th. And New Orleans can be a great event. And a big part of building your organization and building your company is understanding why. And what do you want your company to be? What is it part of your legacy? Is this an organization that you want to outlast you? So really relevant to understand what your legacy is going to be, to really think about how you want to build your organization. And then coming up in May, we've got an event centered around leadership. So all of our DLP leaders, 30 plus leaders at DLP, will be at this event. And then many of our sponsors, partners, members of our elite community and their leaders will be with us as well. And welcome you to come join us in beautiful Asheville at the Omni Resort for a few-day event centered around leadership with some of the world's top leadership experts, which I'm really looking forward to. This series of trainings we're in right now, these are the series of upcoming trainings over the next few months, going through the chapters of the book, going through the elements of building an elite organization. And then for anybody a part of our elite membership or wanting to become a part of it, we have 4 Compass days coming up. These are days where we spend a whole day digging into your strategic direction for your organization. A lot of that conversation ends up being around people and who we need in our organization. So we have 4 of those dates coming up that we recommend you to get signed up for quickly to spend time directly with myself and Matt John, a lot of the other leaders at DLP, helping you lay out the strategic vision to your organization. And with that said, I'm going to open up to questions. You can type those into the Q&A box, into the chat box. And I don't know, you might be able to hit raise your hand and we'll take you off mute and you can ask questions live as well. But thanks for sticking on here with us and focusing time on the most important and challenging part of building an elite organization.
Hey, Don, we have one question in the Q&A already. So maybe we can start there. So Duhamel is asking you what tips
today. No questions. Oh, here we go. What tips, tricks do you have to hire someone based on their alignment to your core values? Yeah, it's a great question. So thank you for that. I don't know if I'll pronounce this right, Duhamel. So first I'd say is making your values in the type of organization you run, your culture, clear and obvious to prospective candidates. So it serves a bit as a self-screening that they're going to either be attracted to the type of culture and values you have or not. Then the second component is using tools like the behavioral assessment. It helps with that, in screening people against the type of organization, the values you have. And then from there, it's asking the questions that dig in to what your values are throughout the interview process. So digging into understanding if the person is somebody who lives in alignment with those values, if they believe in those values, if they run and operate in their life similar to those values. If they're operating in complete misalignment with those values, the chance that that's going to change once they join your organization is almost zero. And I always just, to this question, remind myself, and I've said this hundreds of times over the years, but I just love this quote. When Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, was interviewed years ago, he was asked, how does he get people at Starbucks to smile so much? And he said, well, it's really easy, or it's really simple. I hire people that like to smile. And so he doesn't think he's going to hire people who are unhappy and not energetic and positive, and that they're going to become that because they love Starbucks so much. He hires people who already have that personality and puts them in a culture that pushes that type of behavior where they're going to feel comfortable and thrive. Yes, and you can raise your hand and we'll take you off mute as well. And no, I can't hear you, Claudia.
Yeah, no, everyone, I don't think Don can hear us.
I hear you.
Oh, great, wonderful. So if you have a question, please, like Don said, put it in the Q&A or raise your hands and we can put you off mute.
Go ahead, Larry, we'll take you off mute there. Whoever that is, 203, you should be able to now take yourself off mute. While I wait for that person to come off mute, this is not, of course, easy stuff. And if you want, for a lot of what I talked about, you want examples of what we're doing, I encourage you, when you go to our website, dlpcapital.com, you can see the jobs we have open. You can see how we post the job ads. You can see how we present our company to prospective candidates as well, and use that as examples. See how we present ourselves on websites like Glassdoor, which is really important for you to develop that presence on Glassdoor, which is a place that candidates look to review employers. So some of the basic things to do to help put yourself in a position to attract the best people.
Don, I have another question. Do you have any lessons that you learned the hard way when hiring people?
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. So, I'll say, despite, here I'm leading everybody in a training and a discussion on how to build an organization of A players and how to develop leaders. And despite the fact that I, made this a core part of a book that I wrote and core part of the lead execution system, and I've spent more time on this than anything else over the last 8 years, more time on interviewing and developing leaders than I spent on anything else, even though I'm heavily involved in all the, this capital raising and deal sourcing and whatnot. We still make mistakes and we're still learning. And I've failed many times on hiring people that I thought would be the right fit, and they turned out not to be. And we've gotten better and better and better over the years. But the most common mistake that I've made is getting sold on a resume. And so sometimes when you really need to hire somebody and you're wanting somebody with a certain set of experience, when they have what looks to be that exact experience or really relevant experience from a previous company, I've been sold on the resume and overlooked other things, overlooked their behavioral match, overlooked kind of their ability and desire to do the hard work necessary today, right? Just because they did the hard work for a previous employer 10 years ago and worked their way up in the company doesn't mean they're going to be willing to do that level of hard work again, right? Just because they were in a role at a much different organization, maybe a much larger organization, doesn't mean that those skills and the way they operated in maybe a bigger organization where everything was well documented and organized and is going to be the same as what they're going to be expected to do here. So I think, overlooking or skipping steps in the process because of a really great resume has been, I say, the most common in hindsight, Monday morning quarterback kind of mistake we've made in hiring leaders that didn't work out. Somebody asked, what are the 4 legs to the stool I mentioned before? So the elite execution system has 4 legs to a stool, or quadrants that I call it, which are strategy, which is the compass is our core tool behind it that we trained on a couple weeks back, people, operations, and acceleration. And what I find is that this is a perfect example of this. If you went on a training like this, and you listen to this training, you may walk out of this saying, man, all I need to do is get better at hiring great talent and, to be able to achieve my goals and grow my organization. If you put all your energy and effort just on this, just on hiring great people, that would be a great place to start. But if you put no focus around the other areas of the business, maybe you do a great job of filling your organization with great people, but you don't now have enough business or work or growth going on to keep them busy, right? And I think so often we read a book or hear from a guru who talks about people or leadership or operations or checklists or content marketing or capital raising or whatever the case is, and we put a lot of focus around kind of one area of our business, and we think that that's going to be the magic bullet that's going to help us achieve all of our goals. And what I've learned the hard way is that I have to focus on all of these areas together, part of one cohesive plan, to get repeatable, consistent results. Otherwise, you end up doing what a lot of companies do, which is they have growth and then they have to catch up, and they have growth and they catch up. And that's why most companies that make the Inc. 5000 fast growing company list don't make the list the second year. Many cases, I bet you if you looked at the list of companies that were on the fastest growing company list 5 years ago, I bet you more than half of them aren't even in business anymore. More companies go out of business due to indigestion and starvation. Meaning they didn't build the legs of the stool. They had an off-balance business that put themselves at jeopardy of going out of business because of that.
Hey, Don, maybe a final question is, what is your own favorite interview question?
That's a great question. So I don't know if I have one singular favorite interview question. But I'd say, one that I find really important is, if we've done our job really well in screening talent and going through the interview process and narrowing down to a really great person, what sometimes you can forget about is that person's interviewing you as well. And the best people often are being pursued by other companies too. And so it's not as simple as them. I was making an offer. They may be getting 2 or 3 or 4 offers from different companies. So I found something in the past. I made the mistake of not acknowledging that and just assuming that if, hey, we make them an offer, of course they're going to accept. Why wouldn't they want to work here? And not really drilling into that. So I found myself throughout the process asking questions along the line. So, how excited are you about DLP today? That assuming compensation was in line and we made you an offer tomorrow, where would you be in being ready to accept and being, through the roof excited to be a part of the organization, right? And by asking questions like that, I can find out, well, I'm interested, but I'm exploring other opportunities, or, and get a feel for how excited they'd be and where we're at in selling them on the opportunity to come here, because it can be very easy where you're spending all your time drilling into them and making sure they're a fit and not taking any time to sell them and why they'd want to work here. So thank you for that question. Thank you, everybody, for the time. We are right at the top of the hour, so I'm going to adjourn this here. Sorry for the technology issue for a couple minutes there, but appreciate the patience with us, and have an awesome rest of the day, everybody.